All right, so we're going to look at powers of 10, except I froze my screen, so let me get that switched over. All right, so we're going to look first at positive exponents, positive powers of 10, and just look at some shortcuts for how this works. We've been looking at powers, we've looked at powers of 10. This is just getting some of this written into the notebook. So if I have 10 to the 4th, what that means is I'm going to have a 1, and the 4 tells me how many zeros to put after it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I can number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, just to kind of see. So basically 10,000. I can put my comma in, and that's going to be my final answer. But the zeros tell me, or the zeros, there's the number of zeros there is in the power. I know what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's say I have 10 to the 7th. That means I'm going to have a 1 with 7 zeros. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so that gives us 10 million. So let's write off to the side that the exponent tells you how many zeros follow the 1. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's just because when we multiply by 10, it just moves the decimal place and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. With negative exponents, it's a little bit different. Okay, so if I have 10 to the negative 1 power, if we just think about what we've learned about exponents, that means 1 over 10, 1/10. And if we write 1/10 as a decimal, that is 0.1. Notice that there is 1 decimal place. If I do 10 to the negative 2nd, that's 1 over 10 squared, which is 1 over 10 times 10, which is 1 over 100. So that's 1/100th, which is 0.01. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I like to have the 0 over here in the 1's place, but I'm actually going to leave that off. So this is 0.1, 0.01, because sometimes that extra digit does confuse people. So notice if my power is negative 2, I have 2 decimal places, and the 1 is in the 2nd place, 0 is in the 1st place. So let's see if you guys can follow the pattern and tell me what 10 to the negative 3rd would be without going through all the fractions. So I had 0.1, 0.01. Now we're going one step further. So 0.001. So this would be your 1st decimal place, your 2nd decimal place. The 1 is in the 3rd decimal place. So if you have negative exponents, first of all, it's going to be a decimal. And so we'll just write a note down here. Negative exponent tells us the decimal place to put the 1. It also tells us how many decimal places. You're only going to have 0s and 1s when you're doing powers of 10, because powers of 10, that's just how they work. I'm just getting things straightened up, so let everybody get that written down, and then we're going to do a couple more examples of a positive and a negative, talk about a special case.
Is that
and we'll be
use or use? Negative exponents tell you.
Oh, it's supposed to tell you. I don't know why I wrote use, because it sounds a lot like you. Good catch. All right, so negative exponent tells you the decimal place to put the 1, or how many decimal places would be another way to think of it. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples down here. So if I have 10 to the 9th place, that's a positive exponent. So tell me what to do. I'm going to put the 1 down.
And then you put 9 zeros.
And then you put 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to end up with 1 billion. Okay? If I do 10 to the negative 9th, I'm going to put my decimal point, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and when I get to 9, that's when I put the 1. Does that make sense? It's a little bit different because there's not 9 zeros. This is the 9th place. And it does get confusing between the two, but if you can learn just those simple rules,
I just
you'll
think
be
of
okay.
the decimal place. I just think of how I put it positive, and I think of the decimal as a 0, and I put it.
There you go. You could. And then the one special case that we have is if they do 10 to the 0 power, which just falls into the rule of anything to the 0 power, which is 1. So it's 1 with 0 zeros after it, if you want to think of it that way. All right, so that's powers of 10.